Good afternoon, my YouTube viewers. It's Crystal here. I'm just here because I want to do another code review. And the code review that I'm going to do is going to be on standard deviation. But before we do the code review on standard deviation, which I'm going to cover in Python and R, then what I wanted to do is I wanted to go through a few statistical terms with you to get you familiar with standard deviation. So one of the formulas for standard deviation is that it is the square root of variance. So I thought it would be a good idea to talk just a little bit about variance so you'll know what that is. And you can see here, this is the formula for variance. So here's a little bit about variance. It says, unlike range and interquartile range, variance is a measure of dispersion that takes into account the spread of all data points in a data set. It's the measure of dispersion the most often used, along with standard deviation, which is simply a square root of the variance. So now you know just a little bit about what variance is. So the standard deviation is actually the square root of the variance. And you can see right here, here is the formula for standard deviation. And we've got a question here, what do you mean by standard deviation? And it says, standard deviation, or sigma, is a measure of how dispersed the data is in relation to the mean. Low standard deviation means the data are clustered around the mean, and high standard deviation indicates data are more spread out. So what I thought would be really neat, let's do this. Let's do a histogram. So look at the plot. So that's a histogram of our list, and I haven't done that in Python because I just decided to do it now, this very minute. I thought it'd be a good idea to do it, but you can see we've got a histogram of what our list is. So, but the first thing we're going to do is we're going to cover what the variance and the standard deviation is in Python. So again, here's our formula for standard deviation. And I made my own little formula to calculate standard deviation, but if I went over it with you in detail, I would have to go over the function that I made for variance. And so since I haven't, and then whenever I went over the function that I made for variance, then I would also have to go over the function that I made for the mean. So I'm not going to really go into detail about this function that I made for standard deviation except to show it to you. And with this function that I made for standard deviation, you see that the standard deviation of this list is 174.5344. And I may or may not have made a blog post on this code before in the past, but I'm doing it now. So now what we're going to do is we're going to calculate standard deviation from variance, and we're going to we're going to import statistics, and then we're going to import numpy as np. So we've got a list of numbers, and std_lst equals np sqrt. That's the square root, brackets, statistics dot p variance brackets list, and then you print your std_lst, and it's 174.5344. Now the thing that you need to keep in mind when you are calculating variance is you have and standard deviation is you have the variance of the population and you have the variance of the sample. So what we're checking right now is the variance of the population. And if you check the variance of the sample, it would be different. And so that's why in this particular code review, we're talking about the variance of the population because that's what we want to cover. So now we're going to check the variance. So calculate standard deviation using statistics library. So we're going to import statistics. You've got your list of numbers. std_lst equals statistics.pstd_dev list, and it's 174.5344, and against that P means it's the population, because you can check the STD of the population and then you can check the STD of the sample. Now we're going to check STD using NumPy. So we import NumPy as np, and we've got std_lst equals np.std list. And so print std list, and it's 174.5344. So you can see all these different ways that we are calculating the population. It is giving us the same value, which is what we want. We want the same value every time. So that's the few little ways that we can calculate standard deviation that I've figured out. I found out on my own. And now we're going to go into R, and we're going to look at it in R. And so basically what I have done is I have translated the code from Python to R. So we've got the list to create your list, and then we print list. Just wanted to make sure we had everything there. We made a histogram of the list. I've already shown you that. So N is the length of the list. So that means you've got 10 elements in the list. So we're going to check the variance of the population. And so how you get the variance of the population is you take var list and you multiply it by n minus 1 over n. And that's going to give you 30462.25. And now we're going to calculate the standard deviation from the population variance. So POP_STD equals SQRT, that's square root, times var list. And we print population STD. And you got 174.5344. And now we're going to calculate the standard deviation from the code that is built into R. So std_lst equals SQRT n minus 1 over n times SD list. And that's going to give you 174.5344. So if you want the calculation for the sample, then you would just take out the n minus 1 over n, and you would take out the square root of n minus 1 over n. But I just thought it would be a really neat idea to show you how you can calculate the population. And you need to keep in mind that the population is different from the sample. So when you're doing your calculations, you need to find out, are you calculating for the population, or are you calculating for the sample, because it's going to be different. You have a population and a sample. So I'm going to go ahead and conclude this video. I've been talking almost 10 minutes just on standard deviation. So I would like to thank all of my subscribers for supporting my channel. I did actually get a message from somebody saying that they wanted me to zoom in. I'm sorry, I don't know how to zoom in. What I use is I use Xbox to record the screen. I have a screen recorder on Xbox, so I do apologize. I cannot zoom in. But other than that, thank you so much for watching this video. I look forward to making more videos for you. And if you like my video, please like, subscribe, and share. So I will communicate with you in the next video.